Welcome back, everyone. Blanka Molnar is here to discuss why parents regulate and families heal. Blanka supports parents in moving out of reactivity and into more clarity and connection. Her work blends ancestral healing, family constellation, and practical awareness to help parents break cycles without striving for perfection. Today, we're going to talk about what actually gets passed down through families, how it shows up in parenting, and what helps shift it. Thank you for being part of the summit, Blanka.
Thank you for having me, and welcome to all the listeners.
So many parents don't notice how much of their own childhood is shaping their reactions until a moment really stops them. What was that moment for you, Blanka?
Oh, wow. Right dive into the middle.
Yep.
So, I was born and raised in Hungary, in Budapest. And when I was 26 years old, I decided to move to California and quit my corporate job in Budapest and be an au pair, a live-in nanny with two kiddos in a multicultural family. Mom is Hungarian, dad is Chinese American, so lots of languages were flying in the family. And the kids are very close to age, and I never really done this like in hardcore way, like living with the family before. And we were having a lot of meltdowns, but I remember clearly one meltdown when the kids had meltdown and I had meltdown with them. I have to admit, it happens with adults too. And I wanted to be very calm and peaceful and creative in a way how to handle that, but I wasn't. And in that moment, I realized that it's actually not me, but more my parents' voice that was talking to me in that moment. It was their impatience rising in me. It was that anger rising in me that they couldn't solve the problem as they wanted to solve. And that moment hit me like a baseball bat. And it was scary, but it was a beautiful moment because in that moment, I decided that I have to do something about this. This was 14 years ago. And I was so blessed and lucky to have my own dry run before I had my own toddler and my own baby. And I started a spiritual healing journey in that moment.
Okay, I think a lot of people actually can relate to that. In your experience, do most parents realize that their own childhood is still influencing in how they're showing up with their kids?
Hopefully, more and more people are realizing. So, parents don't usually have the mental capacity, the headspace to do that. Something really painful needs to happen to do that. To happen. So, but I see, especially with millennials, with the new generations coming, they're realizing that they want to do something differently. And social media is making people aware of their traumas, of their nervous system. So there is definitely an awakening in that space that we can do something differently and we have to do something differently. And that because how we were parented, it's affecting our parenting.
Okay, so when the yelling, shame, guilt start becoming repeated cycles with parents and children, what actually needs to happen for that pattern to start changing?
First, you have to make a conscious decision that you want to change that, but that's not enough. It's not like I always call it like it's like a rotten fish. You put it into the drawer and you shut the door on it and you think that, okay, I can forget this. And from tomorrow, I will not remember. It's got stinkier and stinkier. So you have to remember that this is not enough. The conscious decision is the first step, but then you have to start your own healing journey. You have to bring awareness to your triggers. Why is happening? Why you feel that you need to yell? In what moment you are yelling? And you have to break that conscious circle. Like, okay, yelling now is like I feel like a bad mom or bad dad, and the guilt. And then tomorrow is like I will do differently. And tomorrow comes and something triggers you, and it just happens again. So you have to bring awareness to your triggers and start the healing from there.
So you use a method called family constellation in your practice. Can you explain a little bit about what that method entails?
of course, love to talk about it. So the method, this is a holistic modality. It's been around since the 1970s. It's actually coming and originated from Germany. The founder is a German, was a German psychologist, Bert Hellinger. And the method, the foundation of the method is that whatever challenges we have, emotional, mental, physical, environmental, financial, or what our kids have, might be that there was a trauma or a traumatic event happened generations back, even like 7 generations back. So in a family constellation session, you bring your challenges, just 1 or 2 or 3, and maybe we are working on that, or might be working something completely different that have to peeled off before we can work on other things. And in this session, we find the root cause. That's why family constellation is super, super effective, because we are going back to the root. It's on a traditional therapeutic session, you usually talk about your dads, moms, what you remember. But how would you know that, for example, there was an expelled great grandfather because he gambled away the family money, and that's why you have financial problems right now in your life? We are bringing to the conscious traumas that you wouldn't know, or it was a family secret and maybe your grandparents didn't know about that, and we actually heal that by the root. We give that the responsibility to the person with whom it happened, so you are healing forward and backward.
That's pretty powerful because that uncovers a lot of stuff. And
Yes, it
probably, I'm going to
does.
guess there's a lot of aha moments in there.
Oh yeah, it's beautiful because you realize that actually the trauma maybe didn't start with your parents. It's actually like way back then. So yes, it's very powerful.
Wow, and I love that it takes away some of the guilt someone may have because you don't really have control over that. So when the weight of general patterns or family trauma are no longer being carried by the parent or passed on to the child, what shifts do you actually see?
So in a family session and for constellation session, we are working until you feel some kind of relief immediately. It's like that's when I can see that my client's shoulder drops, or they feel lighter, or their face brightens up, or they have that like, now I understand. And even just bringing light to that their behavior and why they were behaving, or why their parents were behaving the way they did, that perspective shift, it's huge already. And then I always say that we are like giving a flicker to the soul. So one session is not set as just, okay, we are done and that's it, but it will make more changes, and it's like a butterfly effect. It will go and make changes in the next weeks, even months. So you might get a call from your mom if you never talked before, or you haven't talked for a long time, that, hey, I would like to meet you. So it's just like interesting happening. It's very personal how the healing is happening, but it's all sorts of levels of physical, mental, emotional, financial sometimes.
Okay. So conscious parenting gets a lot of attention these days. And to me, that feels like it could just be another thing that a parent or I would have to get right. What are your
Yeah,
thoughts about that? Is it more pressure or does it help?
both. Actually, yesterday I was in a podcast and we were talking about that, how much things new parents or current parents need to do. It's like in the 80s, you were like, oh, you had a roof over your head, you had food, and it's like, you are fine. But now it's like all sorts of stuff. And the new parents are also reparenting themselves when they are parenting. And that's a lot of work and that's a lot of pressure. And parenting itself, it's hard. It's the toughest job. And trying to heal yourself in that process is also adding an extra. But the thing is that what we talked about, this catch 22 cycles, that I yell, I feel shameful, I feel guilty, and my kids are not behaving. As soon as you start to do the healing work, your external world, your kids, your partner, your coworkers, will react for that. So yes, it feels like an extra pressure and it feels like another thing to do, but also on the long term, it will pay off.
Okay. That that makes sense. So all of this is a process, takes an investment, and
Yes.
it's not a one and done.
No.
Okay.
No. I've been doing it for a while and I'm keep going. So yes.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that. I do want to shift gears just a little bit here because I do think that this is an important topic that really doesn't get touched on too much. And I'd like to talk about grief and experiences like miscarriages, major life changes, losses. They frequently just get pushed down. What
Mhm.
do what do families miss out when past losses aren't talked about or acknowledged?
So I can speak from personal experiences and professional experience because I had multiple miscarriages. And so grief needs to be processed, and loss is a loss. So some people, like all parents, are experiencing loss and grieving in a different way. And I don't like label that it's a small loss. So it's like, for example, if you lost a baby when the fetus was only 8 weeks old, or when 25 weeks old, loss is a loss. And with a loss, you are not just losing a baby, you are losing all the shoulds, all the what ifs, maybe time. I'm an older mom. So for me, it was like, okay, will I have another chance or will I not have another chance? It's easier for me to talk about it right now because I have a happy and healthy toddler. And I worked a lot on it. But grief needs to be processed because when you just suppress it, it will come up in all sorts of way. I had a client who had a loss before she had her daughter, and even if it was 3 years difference, she couldn't connect to her daughter after that because that loss was not processed in her, and she was just afraid to love that daughter and losing that daughter. And why I know this so well, because that was my mom with me. And also I felt the same way with my daughter. I was afraid to love her because I was just so scared to lose her too, like the other babies, that it's terrifying. And it does all sorts of things. You are becoming a helicopter parent. You are like, oh, don't do that, be cautious, be careful. But then you are slowly clipping the children's wings and pulling out all the feathers and don't let them fly because of your own fears. So like fear and loss and grief can bring up all sorts of things if it's not processed. But what I noticed when I was going through my miscarriages, that it's still a taboo to talk about. People are so uncomfortable around you to talk about. I'm open about it because I want to break that cycle. I'm a cycle breaker. uh, so I wanted to break that. And but people around me didn't know how to react. It's like, oh, what is she talking about? What should I say? What should I not say? Even when I asked my dad that, do you want to talk about me or do you want to ask anything from me? And he's like, I don't know what to say. And I was like, maybe don't say anything. Maybe just listen. Maybe just say that, tell me more. And then you let the other person who's going through the miscarriage to open up how much they want to be open about that. Maybe they don't want to talk about it. Maybe they want to talk about it. But and also admit, if you are on the other side, that, hey, I'm not comfortable to talk about this. So which is absolutely fine because you are not a therapist. So just be honest, because I had people who started to talk about the weather when I just said that. It's like, hey, I just went through a miscarriage. It's like, oh, it's actually raining outside. They were so uncomfortable. So we need to be more open about these topics and process it.
Well, I appreciate your transparency with all of that. What do you think shifts when people finally allow themselves to feel it?
It's like popping the lid on something. You suppress so much and so many emotions that you have to let them out, because they are making you sick, like emotionally, mentally, physically. They are, all your trapped emotions are making you sick. You have to let it out in a controlled, in a way that somebody is supporting you. I'm not saying that go and just road rage somebody because you are angry, but like we have to learn to process our emotions in a healthier way as a society, not just people who are grieving, but we need to know that it's okay to be human. It's okay to feel angry. You don't have to wear this mask that, okay, I'm happy all the time, because that's not true. Anger is part of you, but it doesn't have to define you. Your loss doesn't need to define you. You are not your anger. You are not your loss. You are not your grief. Everything can pass, but it needs to come up and let go.
That makes sense. So let's talk about awareness and the importance of awareness. I know that that's a big part of your work. How do you how do you help people in those situations, and parents in general, begin to recognize what's triggering them, what people are uncomfortable with acknowledging or talking about? How does that path to awareness look?
So yes, that's the basic of my business, awareness. It's bringing awareness to the nest. So because it all starts with, like, who am I? Why I'm behaving and why I'm acting the way I do. I love all sorts of personality profiling because it helps you to also, like, not putting you into a box. I don't like that, but just give you some guideposts that what are your preferences, what is your default, and then how can you flex that style. Usually with parents and with all my clients, I start to use a trigger log. On my webpage, there is a free trigger log. You can download it. It's easy. It's easy, but it's very powerful. So for 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks, you are just making notes when you are triggered. When are you triggered? Who is triggering you? How long does it take to get back to neutral? And how does trigger actually looks like for you? Maybe it's physical, maybe it's mental, maybe it's in your tummy, maybe it's on your head, maybe you get like red flashes. So that's when you start to bring awareness to the triggers. And after you noted all those triggers, you will see probably a pattern. And that's when you can start healing. I love patterns because they are amazing messengers. Those are, if you have something, that's where it is. Or if somebody is triggering you and you can see, like, oh, I'm so annoyed by her. It's like, what's that thing that annoys you in her? Because maybe other colleagues or friends are not annoyed by that behavior or skills or whatever, but something in you, why do you feel that it's triggering you? Because if it's in you, you can start to heal. You can take responsibility for your healing. And the other part is very important, is the responsibility. Healing is your responsibility. You cannot shift blame that here's my husband, fix him, or here is my child not behaving, fix that child. No, you can control only yourself and your behavior and your own healing. And as soon as it's changing, they will start to shift with you. But you have to start inside you.
So I have to ask this. Have you noticed some patterns within the patterns? I'm a pattern person myself.
I love the patterns, and I'm still looking my own patterns. It's like I the thing is that I'm still get annoyed when we are late, and I know that it's my pattern, but it's the pattern of the pattern that it's like I'm still annoyed by being late. And right now we are in a toddler phase when it's like I do it, everything I do it for my daughter, so everything takes longer. So I have to just, like, okay, it's my pattern coming up. It's being annoyed that we are being late, but I can breathe it through. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes it's like, let's go, it's time. But I also don't want my daughter to grow up that she's been rushed all the time, like I was. That's why it's one of my patterns, because I was rushed all the time. And what am I doing? As actually I'm passing on to my daughter. So I have to bring awareness to that pattern.
Oh, that's a great example. I love that. So, for parents listening who feel like they've already messed everything up, what do you want them to know right now?
You didn't. Parenting is not easy. And first of all, go into the corner, yell into the pillow, and give grace to yourself. So, this is not a black and white game. This is not like, okay, I'm done. I really messed it up. Healing can start today, and it's still better than if you don't do it at all. So, give grace, patience, and start to use the trigger log or start to bring awareness. You can start it any day. Healing can happen. If your kid is already 30 years old, they still need you. You are still their parent. You can still model healing for them so they can model to their kids.
That was really important, that adults are still children also, and it's never too late. Thank you for sharing that. If a parent could take just one small step towards doing things differently, where would you suggest they start?
Make that decision that you want to do differently and start to track your patterns.
Okay. So, in your work, when parents begin to do their own healing, what do you see change most in the relationships with their children? So, I would think the gift of some of the work you do is you sort of get to see it when it's at its most clunkiest, but you get to watch the process and see an outcome. What are some of those outcomes that you see?
The deeper bond, the deeper understanding, and the grace what you give to yourself. And it's like I had to say I love you for myself so many times because my daughter was just mirroring that 3 year old child in me, my inner child, that when I wanted to yell at my daughter, I was like, I just love myself. I just love you. I see you. But it was more for me. And then, of course, my daughter, but I had to regulate myself first before I could regulate her.
That's beautiful. Um, I'm just going to ask, do we have any questions out there in the chat before we finish up? Like, you are such a gift that I hate to see that
Thank you.
people aren't able to take advantage of that.
Thank you. Thank you. I
Yeah.
love what you do. And it's very much needed. So thank you for
Oh,
giving me the platform.
always, Blanca, thank you for sharing your wisdom and heart with us today. Your insights remind us that healing is the most powerful gift we can give ourselves and also give our children. I think,
Thank
if
you.
anything, that is the message that I always get when I listen to you, of how powerful it is. So I do appreciate the amazing work that you're doing and the light that you bring to this conversation. If people out there want to learn more about you and your work, they can go to your website,
Yes.
awareness.net, and that's awareness, AWARENEST.
Thank you so much. Have a lovely one.
You too.